So I'm really delighted to have been this PG3 group's lead tutor and to have had the opportunity to curate the online exhibition at the end of the course. I also want to just extend my thanks to the artists for their commitment to Contemporary Art Academies. It's great to see so many of you kind of coming through the programme and repeating courses. So it's obvious that you're getting lots out of CAA. And also just like to thank you for just entrusting their work to me for the curation of the online exhibition. So the format of the evening is that we're going to be hearing from each of the artists about their work. There are a couple of people who aren't able to join us, so Matthew's going to be reading a statement on their behalf. And as Matthew said, there's just going to be an opportunity to ask questions again, which is going to be interesting to hear from all of you. So Matthew's just going to give us a quick sort of spin around the show, keep giving us a quick spin around the show just to see what it looks like. So it's been a real pleasure to work with this group, getting to know them and their practices over the last 10 weeks. The cohort comprises 15 fantastic artists that are at very different stages in their careers, points in their lived experience, and geographic locations, which I think sometimes is a challenge, but the internet and Zoom overcomes many of those difficulties around geographic location. But what binds the artists together is their desire to keep pushing themselves to develop their practice, build their network connections, and find new visibility for their work, which I hope CAA and this course has gone some way to helping them to achieve. There's a wide range of media in the show, from drawing, painting, and sculpture to photography, video, and digitally produced imagery. And in terms of broad themes that have helped to shape the curation of this group show, there are a number of artists that are dealing with trauma, loss, and healing. And this process of recuperation sometimes takes the form of a spiritual journey of exploration, the analysis of dreams, or a particular relationship to place as a way to connecting to past memories or people. It can even be as simple as the act of art making itself. Another theme to have emerged is alternative realities, or worlds constructed through explorations of memory and nostalgia, design and high art, as well as folk traditions and contemporary culture. So we're going to go to our first artist, and that is Sarjay Haynes. Sarjay, can I just invite you to just tell us a little bit more about this work and about your practice in general?
Absolutely. Thank you. My name
Pleasure.
is Sarjay Haynes, and I live on land traditionally held by the Kalapuya people in the Pacific wonderland of Turtle Island, what is also known as Eugene, Oregon, in the United States. The work that I do, I consider myself a spiritual archaeologist, and I work in the style called neural magic. So I do work to help change my mind about things more easily and to reveal and heal intergenerational trauma in order to be more present in my life and be able to use the gifts and talents I've been given in the most effective way. This first piece is called I Know How to Heal, and it's part of a larger series of work I've been doing since October of 2023. I was very inspired by the people in Gaza and the experience that they're going through with the genocide. So a lot of this series has been focused on trying to bring out and excavate the traditional knowledges of people that have been lost and to feel those in myself. I Know How to Heal, though, is a very personal piece. I painted this using a 3-color glazing technique and then embedded some transparent text over it, which says I know how to heal several hundred times. And this originated because I had a car accident in February of last year, which caused me quite a bit of damage along with the vehicle. And I needed to use this as a mantra to really communicate to myself, my spirit, that I know how to heal. And my hope is that when viewers experience this piece, it communicates that same message to them. The second piece is even more specifically connected to the Gaza genocide. It's called Intifada. And Intifada is the Arabic word for shaking off or uprising. And so really what I'm trying to communicate in this piece is that while we see a concentration of very dark energy happening in positions of power and authority, privilege, that we collectively have the power to transform that into a light and truly a beautiful, colorful world again. And so I believe that we have the power to overcome what we are confronting these days.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And Sergio, I'm just sort of curious as well. And this is something I haven't asked you before. Is there kind of not exactly participatory or collaborative aspect to the work, but do you work with other people in terms of, that process of healing and sharing?
I do. Thank you for asking that. I love collaborating, actually. I have a few pieces that I've done in collaboration with other artists, and I'm also part of a gallery collective
Mm,
in Eugene, and I have the privilege of being the coordinator of the gallery. So I work very closely with other artists on a daily basis. I also teach neural magic to newcomers and experienced artists alike. I find that these practices are very accessible. Many of my pieces folks will look at
mm,
and they'll say, wow, that looks like something I made when I was a kid.
mm,
And that's honestly a great compliment to me because I'm really trying to heal my inner child and give her freedom to play and have a good time with
mm.
making art.
Yeah. And tell us more about neural magic. What does that look like?
So it can take a lot of different forms. I use a lot of different media. These paintings were done with acrylic, but
Mm,
sometimes I do drawing and
mm,
sometimes I'm working in sculpture now.
mm,
And really, it's about trusting your inner knowing, your sense of curiosity and what parts of yourself you feel maybe are neglected or feel stuck, moving that energy out onto the page or whatever surface I'm working in order to create more spaciousness in myself, to change my mind more easily.
mm. Brilliant, brilliant. And there's a kind of flatness as well with the work that I think, sometimes I've read them as being prints rather than paintings. So I just
Mm,
wanted to ask you as well just about that relationship between design
mhm.
and and fine art practice as well in the work.
Very interesting. I've definitely had people also reflect that it sometimes the work looks like a monoprint
Mhm,
and I have done a little bit of exploration with monoprinting. Um, I love the interplay between matte and gloss media. I like to have, so with I Know How to Heal, that transparent text that's overlaid 100 times, it creates a really beautiful glittery effect over this very matte white and colorful kind of background. So yeah, I love having that. I like to do a lot of different types of um, intermixing and interplaying between
mhm.
media and layering.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. That's super helpful. Brilliant. Tina, are you there?
I am. Hi, Kirsty.
Hello, Tina. Nice to see you again. Um,
And you?
do you want to just tell us a little bit about the works that you're showing in the show and just your
Yeah.
practice in general and that because I slightly alluded to it in my introduction, that relationship between place and connection and memory to people.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Kirsty. Yeah. Just a bit of background first. So I paint semi-abstract land and seascapes, and fully abstract work using acrylics, watercolor, oil pastel, and ink. And I work from a Dorset studio. Um, and I tend to paint on canvas or wood, which is anywhere between sort of 15 centimetre square up to about a metre square. Um, and just to give background, because I feel it sort of relates to how I feel about land and sea. I grew up in Falmouth in Cornwall, and I my parents owned a hotel, and it's so as when we were talking, it sort of made me realize then actually more than ever that it was quite a transient environment to grow up in, but also I was meeting a lot of people, but I was also quite isolated because my parents were very busy. So I sort of turned to my imagination quite a lot, and was quite creative in my childhood. And I equated family days out in nature with feeling loved, and that attention that I got from being out in enjoying the, just being with my parents, but that quality time outdoors. So basically, that's why I connect the theme. It's why the theme of place is so important to me. And after selling the hotel, we moved to a normal family home, if you can call it that, which then, I was just in the countryside, immersed in the sea and just outdoors. So um, the the locations depicted in my paintings are actually imaginary places, and it's quite a meditative practice where I'll connect to sort of to the unconscious, and I think there's probably repressed thoughts and memories and feelings which I then express through the landscapes that I form. Um, I also lost my mum and dad before at the age of 43. They passed away separately, and my mum had dementia. So it's led me to a lot of contemplations and explorations on memory. And it was quite an experience. So I'm still processing it. It was a while ago now, but it's kind of working through it. My painting has helped hugely. So with regards to the dreamscape painting, that was a bit of a serendipitous process. I had the canvas on my floor, on my studio floor, and the sun was coming through the window. And there was the silhouette of my window. So I then traced over it, and worked up in layers from there. So although it sort of morphed into a skyscape, a cloudscape, and was, whilst doing it, I was sort of contemplating um, about clouds and how they are quite reflective of our thought process, and how thoughts can go from good one moment to foreboding the next, and that sort of transient movement. Yes, so sorry. Yeah, ever changing, ever evolving, similar to our thoughts and dreams.
Yeah. And do you want to just say a little bit about the scale of the smaller, because the smaller works, and whether they operate as individual pieces or whether they're a kind of composite memory scape of because it's more to do with trying to connect back to a feeling, isn't it? That rather than an actual place, and that feeling partly is bound up with geographic location, partly bound up with people, but it's a sort of trying to sort of search through and for something, isn't it? I mean, do you want to just say a little bit about how the three works operate together?
Yeah, I painted them. I painted all three of them at the same time, but they're not a triptych, obviously, because they've got sort of hazy sun in all of them. And I think while painting them, I was just remembering times as a child. It's interesting because I had them on display somewhere, and somebody picked up on it was the middle one, and they said, "Oh wow, that looks just like." And they named a place in Cornwall, and I thought, "Gosh, isn't that strange?" Because I wasn't there. I wasn't. Although I was, it's almost as if they've totally picked up on what my emotions were, and that I put on the canvas. So I was actually really pleased when they recognised it as Cornwall, when I'd actually been meditating on that when I was painting them. So yeah, I think I find it still quite hard because it's such a such a deep rooted process. I find that that's expressing my feelings, and then I probably still haven't completely connected myself with them. So, but I'm hoping over time that will come together more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, brilliant.
So Jan is a local artist on the Isle of Man, where she has lived for nearly her entire life. Jan creates abstract landscapes responding to this captivating island using a variety of mixed media. Jan's work explores how a landscape evolves upon the surface, the essence of place, and our emotional connection to the land and sea. Jan's joy is the history, culture, land and seascapes of the island, which is interpreted onto the surface through her own impassioned response. Jan feels grateful every day that her parents brought her to the island to live as a baby. She is drawn to the shifting of the tide, the sensation of the salt on your face, the clattering of the pebbles being drawn back by the waves, the cerulean water, the endless colour palette of the sky, the confluence of light, the distant hills, the wildlife, as at a constant present, living so freely there. Jan explores the building up of textures in different ways, sometimes using leaf skeletons or seed heads, working on plein air, searching for ways of making new marks, creating symbolic or metaphorical references to the island. She may intuit the ancient, beautiful Manx Gaelic to title her work. Jan hopes to communicate her own passion and gratitude for living in this world, an unforgettable place, evoking a sense of curiosity, wonder, and a call to cherish it along with the rest of our planet.
Right. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Olga, hello, where are you?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Kirsty. Hi, everyone.
Hi, nice to see you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. A bit nervous, but
Don't
good.
be nervous. Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous at all. You'll be fine. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about the works that you're showing and the practice in general?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you so much, Kirsty, and thank you for Contemporary Art Academy for hosting this. This is wonderful. Maybe I'll mention a little bit about my journey, because I think that's quite a good background for it. I have studied art. I always was interested in art since a child. I was painting fantasy flowers when I was very little. Then I went into art college for 5 years, and then 5 years of the art university. Did a master degree where I did a thesis on mandala. In 2005, Carl Jung and mandala, connected to Buddhism. Then I think the pivot point was when I was 14, when I experienced death of my own mother. That was quite a strong experience. The next one was, I think, the end of the university times, when I realized how much ego I felt I had as an artist, and I felt I just really want to destroy that. So I started to look for the methods for it. And then I found Buddhism, and that took me for 12 years, gave me a break from painting in a way, where I moved into methods of looking more inwards than outwards. And then I immigrated to England, and I'm based now in UK. And I was working as an art teacher in London-based schools. And then when I was preparing resources for students, I realized how happy I am making art, and that's when I went back, and that's when everything else started to happen. The journey with this, what you see now, is a journey where I realized how much symbols were popping in my dreams. So my art is I mostly paint depicting the dream materials. They're connected to symbolic language that comes from not necessarily conscious thinking, but that comes from when we dream, maybe when we don't include conscious thinking in the process. What I do very often, I try to, when I wake up after the dream, I try to write it down in my dream diary, make a small sketch if necessary, and then next what I do, I just work with it by keep painting it and drawing it and trying to start a dialogue with something that I not necessarily understand. And I think that's what I really love about dreams, because I don't plan anything in my head. It comes up. And I'm trying to just understand. So it's very difficult sometimes for me to understand straight away, and it takes a long time, sometimes years even, to understand what it is all about. And it's a fascinating journey. And just mentioning that, I just realized, thank you to Kirsty as well, because the way the work you choose, I realized this, the symbol of the bird in there. I'm like, wow, it's very,
yeah. But that's the interesting thing, isn't it? That, you know, the dreams happen, and then there's a process of interpretation and reinterpretation, because when we were looking at the works of yours to include in the exhibition, there were multiple versions of the same subject matter. So the dream is leading, but then there's this interpretation of it, and this playing around with the final form of the work as well.
Yes, and very often I think that's again, because I'm trying to understand it, it takes me to the path of studying a little bit of the psychology, and there was few events that happened that really helped me to that. So one of it was the symbolic language of the unconscious with Chantal Powell, that the course that really helped me to direct a little bit more, even that's something that I did before, but I actually ignored it for a bit, and then I went back now. And Carl Jung calls what I do amplification, which means you just work with it. You start this dialogue by constantly thinking about it and processing it by painting it or drawing, and tuning in really to that what it could mean. And perhaps maybe it's important to mention that that when I paint, it's important to me to understand what it means, but not necessarily for someone who looks at it. For someone from outside, I think it's important that they will make their own feelings and thoughts about what it is to them. Not necessarily that I will try to impose my own vision of it.
Yeah. And I think, you know, we talked about the image that of the caged man bird, you know, and it's you know, current politics are in there as well. It's, you know, it's personal things, but it's current politics as well. You've got Zelensky in the cage that you're feeding boiled eggs to.
Yeah, that one is quite funny. I really didn't want to mention Zelensky because it came from the unconscious, and unconscious speaking a very symbolic language that I don't understand myself. So yeah, it's almost like it is in a movie that there's someone else is choosing characters that are going to play certain roles in my movie, let's say. And in this case, I think it was Zelensky. I'm not sure why. I have got no clue about it. I don't have idea. I think it's more, when I try to think about it, is more of the, in Jungian psychology, I think there is in each of us, like in me as a female, I have got also a male side of me, which is animus. And that animus can be, the male side of my psyche can be showed up as a male in the dream. And I had that several times in my dreams where certain characters would come. So let's say there is a sexual scene happening and there is males involved. It doesn't mean that I have got an affair in a dream with someone, but it means that there's this male's part of my psyche that is needs something. So in this case, yes, this bird was a hybrid creature that appeared in my dream. It was a bird. And the eggs are very strong symbol as well. It's a symbol of renewal and transformation and new life. It was boiled, so I'm not sure if that means development of some sort. The birds is freedom as well. The wings that are tied is so it's maybe there's some part of my male part of myself is being tied. Like, I have no clue. Sometimes it's very difficult to understand what the dreams come, but it's fascinating journey. It's a good, always a narrative story there.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Teresa, are you there?
I am.
Hello,
Hello.
hello. How are you doing? I can see you
I'm
now.
doing great. Thank you so much, Kirsty, and
Good.
thank you, Matthew, for driving. I'm Teresa Bernadette. I am a multidisciplinary fine performing and literary artist from Los Angeles, California. My primary art form is sculpture, but for the past 2 years, I've been working on this bloodletting body of paintings. And my work in general revisits themes of shame, disgust, and grief as a way of confronting and alchemizing trauma. So these two pieces on the left, the two sister pieces, Alchemy 1 and 2, are examples of that process. So I use my canvas, or in this case, a wood panel, to celebrate the female figure, not from like a gendered gaze, but from like directly from the source. So I've applied a textured paste using a Venetian plaster technique, and then covered the surface with menstrual blood, and used alcohol to create blooms and voids. And then there's like gold leaf kind of peeking through. So it's a way of reclaiming the space material as to me, the truly magical elixir that it is. For example, menstrual blood has life-giving stem cells, and it is literally the thing that we emerge from. And I think that women's bodies are amazing and understudied and underutilized for the sort of magic and beauty that they have. But I also grew up in a society that taught me to hate my body. So my Venus series on the right has been an act of falling back in love with myself. And in this case, I used a super heavy gesso and the same technique of covering it and coating it in blood, and then applying a subtractive technique to sand away the dark layer and reveal the highlights underneath. And this is a long, slow process that was an act of meditation for me. And I realized as I was doing it that it sort of mirrored the years of like failed diets and exercises to attain a body ideal that I was not designed for. So to me, this is a reflection of my shame over body dysmorphia and eating disorders, my disgust and squeamishness at the sight of blood, my grief over motherhood and loss, and the erasure of the ways that we diminish women's bodies.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like an exhausting practice. I mean, the process of making the work, it physically is demanding. Teresa, how do you sustain yourself keeping through that in terms of the work?
A part of it is pacing. I can't do this every single month. And so it's, part of it is that, and part of it is making sure that I am nourishing myself physically, like eating healthy food. I have to be very aware and cautious of how I take care of my body and myself. And also, emotionally, how I take care of, who I surround myself with and how I invite people to help take care of me.
And of course, the final outcome is referred to as a painting, I suppose, but there's a performative aspect of making the work as well, isn't there?
Absolutely. And that is something that has, heretofore been like very private, because of the time that it is and stuff like that. It's a very personal and introspective process, but it's something that I know is part of like how much I want to share, figuring out how to invite people into something that's really that intimate.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we talk a lot about actually at in the sessions that I've been running in Contemporary Art Academy, and it's the artist's prerogative to be the editor in what they show and what they choose to show and what they choose to hide from a wider public.
Hello everybody. Hello
Hello,
Kirsty,
Tom.
Matthew.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah,
Good. Nice
yeah.
to see you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your work, and then we can go and look at the images as well, because I think the sculptural practice is the thing that you kind of the primary form of the practice, isn't it?
It has become the primary form of the practice, yes, which is I'm still coming to terms with it. It's a practice that emerged out of being a painter, or thinking about being a painter. You know, really thinking about being a painter and what that meant to me, and the materiality of that. And the painting was always very physical. It was always physically involving, and I got to the point where I just wanted the painting to be something that was surfaces off the wall, away from the wall, and now really the thing is, I've found, you know, this is probably the first exhibition where I have left painting behind. In 2022, when I was lucky to be involved in the first exhibition with Contemporary Art Academy at the Saatchi Gallery, and I was still sort of holding on to that painting, that background. And I showed a couple of mannequins dressed up in clothing I'd been wearing for many years in the studio and painting plein air, and so there was still this thing sort of tying these figures into the painting practice. And actually, this has been a great experiment for me, a great opportunity to sort of really move away and think about how to get the same sort of to work with color the way I want to, without resorting to paint. And it ends up being a very different surface.
Great. Because it feels like you've got a real collision in the practice between this sort of history of painting, but then contemporary culture, you know, the things around you sort of colliding together in the work. And it's also, I mean, it's great because the work isn't static. You know, for this show, we decided to show the two works which are more as photographs, but the one on the back wall is documentation of a kind of performance, or this idea of taking elements of the work out into the world outside of the studio. Do you want to say a bit more about this work and the other work that's just close to the door as you come into the gallery?
Yeah, this was put together. This was a costume I put together. I say costume. I'm still sort of coming to terms with the language for these things. It's almost a collage of materials. It was put together on residency in Portugal at a place called Pada, and it was a response to the place. Really intuitive, and it's me in wearing the costume. Sometimes it's a mannequin that I'll use as a sort of go-between, but it's the embodied knowledge. It is a lot of stuff about intuition, being open to materials, being open to a color scheme. So there's no plan, but once a plan arrives, green and yellow, it can be very simple.
Yeah.
I then follow that thread, and I'm open to when things show themselves to me, and then I start building and collecting and arranging, and having stuff outdoors. Something I started doing. Well, I mean, painting plein air was always something I did in the past. Really love being outdoors. I work outdoors a lot, and having artwork outdoors to me is connecting it into the environment, particular environments. It's about being connected to the world through a body, through a particular embodiment. and one we're bound up in.
Yeah. I mean, this is great. I mean, I just love this because it's just like such a sort of strange, bizarre sort of folk totemic object. I don't know whether it's because it's in the, you know, is it corn? Is it wheat? You know, it's out there in the field. Yeah, brilliant. And of course, we've been able to play around with scale as well, which is one of the brilliant advantages of being in the online space, that you can.
It looks great. Thank you very much.
Scale and the size of
Karina Zerafos is a Greek Australian artist based in Lisbon. Her practice is rooted in drawing as both a material process and a way of thinking. She works primarily with coloured pencil and oil stick on paper or linen, materials that allow slowness but also immediacy. Her approach moves between intuitive exploration and more deliberate composition, informed by her background in design and illustration. Karina's drawing.
Is that it? Oh no, keep going.
I am going, yeah, I'm multitasking. Karina's drawings often unfold as soft dreamscape structures, evoking intimacy, distance, and a kind of tension. The work exists in the space between contrasts, ephemeral and eternal, natural and artificial, memory and projection. She describes drawing as both spontaneous and meticulous, a way to bridge the rational world with the curious depths of the subconscious. The work reflects on how we navigate an increasingly polarized world. The spaces she creates offer a pause, part refuge and part portal. She writes, "In a world increasingly shaped by constructed realities and divisive thinking, I see these quiet spaces as small acts of resistance. Drawing becomes a way of imagining otherwise." There we are. I have a series of 3 works called Red Wine Supernova, 1 to 3, and Room with a View. So these 3 are Red Wine Supernova. Room is based on a work by, after Eileen Agar. Room is based on a work by Agar from the collection at Salford Museum and Art Gallery, which I've been working with over the past year. This is my response to her work in the collection. Red Wine Supernova is a new series of works where I've attempted to push my practice by limiting the amount of time spent on each work to 16 hours. The limitations have forced me to make decisions that take me out of my comfort zone and reinvigorate my painting. My paintings create an uncanny space, enticing the viewer into a world poised between the real and the surreal. A world that is both tangible and illusory. Positioned centrally in my work, dolls are a recurring motif. I view them as explorations of self, a non-binary avatar aligned to my own personality, tastes and memories. They offer a way for me to inhabit the painting both as the artist and the subject. My paintings merge with still life in the imagination, creating a self-contained subconscious world within a single painted plane, where there is room for exploration of an ungendered liminal space.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
I'm well. I hope you're well too. Thank you for hosting this today and curating the exhibition. It looks fantastic, and thank you, Matthew.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Matthew, can we have a quick look at the other 2 works of Louise's, the smaller works? So we're just going to the other. Kunstmatrix has a mind of its own sometimes. There we go, the 2 smaller works here. That's fabulous. Louise, do you want to just tell us a bit about your practice, and if there's particular works that you want Matthew to stop on, then just please say so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm an artist, and I also work as an academic. I'm based in Edinburgh. I originally studied sculpture at Glasgow School of Art, and then went on to do a research degree. And really my interest today is around the visual culture of tourism and festivals. I do research in this area, and I teach in this area as well here in Edinburgh. And most of my practice today is painting, although I do a lot of drawing as well. I tend to work in series, and I often work with oil, building up transparent layers across different surfaces. Most of these paintings are from a quite recent series where I've been specifically concerned with tourism imaginaries and also ideas around hauntology and nostalgia and tourism and leisure. Broadly, I'm influenced by ideas such as the tourist gaze, which is a sociological theory that possibly many of you will have heard of or come across. And it's the way, or it refers to the way that we look and behave and perform when we're being tourists, with a certain sense of curiosity, and the way that we other locals and locals other us. So my work is really influenced by this particular idea, and I work from a variety of sources, everything from material artifacts through to public discourses and narratives. I've been doing a research project recently around over-tourism and perceptions of engaging communities in that context, and that creeps into my work as well. I'm very much influenced by tourism photography. It's something that fascinates me, particularly analog photography and the way that people perform and pose for the camera. The work is more about the interplay, I think, amongst the subjects than it is about the place itself. The places are very uncertain. And I work from my own memory, from old photographs that I've come across that refer to tourism or leisure in some way, and also from drawing. This particular painting comes from a whole series of sources, including a trip to the National Museum of Scotland's Natural World section, where I was sketching. I got fascinated by the ostrich, and how that interplayed with the little girl who was on the stilts, and that's how I came up with this particular I suppose setting, where it's almost like the relationship amongst these two characters, and it kind of captures my own memory of childhood times, maybe on holiday, and interplaying with different scenes. I also like to try and create a sense of staging in a lot of the paintings as well, and uncertainty. This particular one is a slightly older painting from 2023, and I wanted to almost capture the figures, but not quite, and the persistence of being there, almost like an old photograph or something like that.
I mean, there's definitely a sort of an aspect of the uncanny in the work, you know. I think sort of spinning around and looking at the larger works, you've got this sort of strange relationship between, you know, the bear that's standing well, it's obviously somebody in a bear suit, standing next to a figure, and then the ostrich next to the girl. So there's a sort of a curious suggested narrative around the work as well. So I you know, I'm curious to sort of explore how that, you know, is sitting with the, you know, with those ideas, you know, with those ideas of tourism as well, because it's sometimes there's a sort of ambiguity about it as well, because you're not quite sure whether, you know, the bear is a sort of jovial figure or a sort of malign force in the work.
Yes, people have mentioned that before. People, they will react. Some people find them quite menacing, and others find them quite comical as well. The bears themselves kind of came from. I do a lot of in my academic role, I do a lot of work around festivals, and I'm quite interested in communities and local festivals, folk festivals, and that sort of thing. And I came across some photographs. Actually, it was an exhibition I visited in Belfast last summer as part of a photography exhibition, and it had photographs from a European festival. I think it was Poland, possibly Germany, possibly across both actually, where people would dress up as bears as part of the festivities and pose. And this resonated with me quite a lot. I guess being also based in Edinburgh, which is the world's leading festival city, the way it's promoted, and with all the, perhaps many of you are familiar with the Edinburgh festivals, particularly during the summer, where there is a certain element of performance and uncanniness, with all sorts of fantastical creatures appearing all over the place as well. So yeah, and I think this kind of also is, I've started to get quite interested in this idea around the sort of intangible, this hauntological idea of the no longer and the not yet. And where do these actually come from? Is it the past, the present? Is it some kind of relationship amongst those and the future as well?
Yeah, brilliant. It's definitely, Edinburgh is definitely a city that encapsulates hauntology and a little bit of the uncanny as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Louise. I'm afraid we could, as with all of the artists, we could talk for much, much longer about their works. So great. Do you want to tell us a bit more about these works?
Yeah, so this is a series of 3 oil paintings on canvas, which marks quite an unusual direction for me. They show a tree peony transforming from a winter stick, bursting into bud and transforming into a flower. And they explore and symbolize the frailty of life, of love, grief, death, and anger, but ultimately celebrating the fleeting joy of friendship, connection, and savoring precious moments. So painting is new to me. It began when I developed a rare form of cancer in my index finger, and my bone became so fragile it was like eggshell. So it made sculpting impossible. So I turned to oils. But I originally trained as a sculptor in the 80s at Falmouth and then at Chelsea School of Art for my master's. And my early work at the British School at Rome explored the juxtaposition of religion and Roman nightclubs, sculpting with religious knickknacks and fur from the street markets. But I've always been fascinated by scale and how sculpture relates to the human body and the environment. And I play with the physicality of materials, contrasting soft and hard, warmth with cold, precious and disposable. And I explore how materials interact and seem to defy gravity, and bind material to symbolize how individuals navigate constraints, whether that's by conforming, resisting, or subverting them, and reflecting the tension between autonomy and control. So normally they resemble toys and games, unsettling metaphors for social dysfunction. And they're playful, inviting interaction, but quickly frustrating, because they expose the instability of systems built on power, control, and greed. So my sculpture tempts touch only to bite back and disintegrate, and mirrors the psychological struggle within competitive, hierarchical, and patriarchal social structures. So it's quite strange today because I've got such a huge focus on sculpture, but I'm actually showing painting. So just to finish off about my sculpture, it's sort of, I've done things from 20-foot cornucopias of underwear, cat o' nine tail whips, golden satin sacks filled with coal and chocolate, referencing sinister family rituals about betrayal. And I've sculpted room-sized shopping bags made with children's underpants and speaker wires, shown in an old mental institution, along with a swing made of fake sweets. And then in Bangkok, for the Thai Biennale, I created a monkey's cooking pot, which is a steel and velvet candelabra with chains individually wrapped in ribbon crashing to the ground. But as I say, because of my finger, I then had to just rethink my whole practice. And my last exhibition, Players, was an immersive installation of a chessboard with 32 giant and tiny portraits, each signifying an archetype in my life, exploring generational trauma, like we were talking about with Sajay earlier, but played out in the Old Morgue in Plymouth. But so coming back to this triptych, it's the whole title is Pandemic Peony, and it's the one that you're seeing here, and it follows the work I made in Players. And the tree peony was on my balcony, and it burst into bloom the day before a great friend of mine unnecessarily died of COVID. And it was a personal and a political tragedy. And I'd sent photos of the peony to his son as a symbol of hope whilst his father was in intensive care and his ward was on the news. And it was sort of years after that date that I was able to paint this series, working directly from the same peony onto these huge canvases, aimed really to overwhelm the viewer with their scale. And I waited for each season to change so I could work directly from life using brushes, sticks and rags. The second painting that's next to it was sort of much faster. That was like an ink drawing and was done very, very, very quickly. And then the third one was sort of layering after layer of thin paint to capture the sort of ethereal quality of the flower.
Yeah.
So now I'm back making sculpture again, this time revisiting the myth of Leda and the swan, and the bone in my finger is now fully regenerated and now sort of much stronger. It's my strongest digit now. And I've moved into a new studio with our newly formed Tall Point Arts Collective. So I'm making ink drawings of swans outside my house and working on a new sculpture using felt and latex and ribbon and fake meringues to explore themes of temptation, betrayal, and the distortion of myth, and how Leda tried to protect the swan only to be raped by a god, and how that trauma became a love story. So quite
Brilliant.
wide-ranging.
Yeah, and it sounds like things are developing and on the up.
Yeah, I'm
which is
really excited because
Yeah.
I've found it quite hard making work because of having a full-time job, and it's how do you keep going? And I just, by having this new studio, I'm now sort of getting up at 6 in the morning and doing a few hours work before I go into work, and it's totally transformed me. I just feel really invigorated and like I'm back on track again.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. That's great.
Some of you may know. Well, firstly, thank you to yourself and Matthew for putting this together, and just to say that I've really enjoyed doing the 1, 2, and 3 courses. They've been really great, and it's been great, like meeting up with fellow recovering artists, and and yeah, it's been I've really enjoyed them, and it's a nice end to the 3 courses. This little show, so that's great. And yeah, so I'm, I studied fine art in the 80s in Newcastle Poly, and I kind of went on to study architecture as well. And I've always been making kind of stuff through those years, but never full time, which is what I'm kind of been doing recently. And it's kind of why I've done the courses, really, to kind of give me some a little push to focus more seriously on it as a practice, if you like. And yeah, I started painting. I picked the subject matter of goats a few years ago to start painting, because I was kind of thinking, when you start making art a bit more seriously, you kind of think, well, what am I going to do? Previously I was a kind of conceptual type sculptor, but I'm sorry, and that wasn't the way forward for me. I studied kind of sculpture and filmmaking at Newcastle, and I wasn't the kind of natural painter, a bit like Miranda, I guess. And I've recently started making videos again, as I've got one here, which probably illustrate a little more, my thinking underneath when I'm painting these goats, because they're probably deceptive. But the watercolors you've shown, for example, I normally paint in series of 3. So and they can be any size. Lately, I've just been doing watercolors because I need to sort out my studio, and I'm being a bit lazy. So I'm just before I can like tackle kind of bigger surfaces, if you like. So I'm quite happy doing these kind of small watercolors at the moment, and just experimenting with the medium, which is quite fun. And yeah, and it's I think I limit myself to one subject because it helps me explore my own limitations as an artist, or as a kind of a redeveloping artist, if you like. It's been a process I would say, of unlearning and kind of redeveloping, redeveloping the desire and the enjoyment of making art, which sometimes can get lost because you get sidetracked by kind of worldly things and commercial or economic factors, and it's kind of hard to stay pure to the essence and experience of what you do. So
brilliant.
For me,
Shall we have a look at a look at some of the video?
When someone gets thirsty. So
Exactly.
So, and this is it's I have to confess it's minimal art. It's not great art. It's something I'm doing when I'm stuck or when I don't know what's doing else. I took my tablet or take my tablet and I'm scribbling as always, and then guessing what is. It's not more.
Mhm.
So this painting is called X-ray. It shows two figures. When I guess what it is, it's exploring my innermost, I think, with an X-ray. And so one cannot see much, eyes staring and lips tight. So it's not always easy in life. Yes.
Indeed. Matthew, shall we have a look at the other work of Franz's, the clouds?
And the clouds, this is the hope painting. So these two figures are stuck and maybe in depression. And this is the hope painting. You hang it really well, a bit higher. Hope should always hang higher. Is the basket you want to reach. And yes. I always, when I struggle with things, I need a structure to keep straight, and this is the structure, the squares in a grid, and then comes this cloud hiding something, hiding maybe something greater. So I always struggle with art and never knew exactly if this is art or not. And when I came to this point, I always think on Beethoven. And yesterday, the AE makes possible. I spoke with Beethoven about my art, and we can be hopeful. He is watching us. He knows the future because I found out he knows things he couldn't because it's after his death. And he said to me that these are notes. This is a composition, some kind of composition. This is the beat, discrete beat, and this is is the melody. Maybe
Brilliant.
right, maybe not.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you so much, Franz. That's fantastic.
Hello,
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you
Nice
for,
to meet you.
thank you. Well, nice to meet you too. And thank you for putting this beautiful show.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
So I think there are two other
Yeah.
pieces around somewhere, but
Just-
we
just-
can,
Yeah,
we
just,
can, we can, yeah.
There's just one work. Sorry, Matthew. It's next to Miranda's other painting, which we were having the trouble getting past Tom's sculpture. But Anna, just
Yeah.
start talking about your. If you could just start telling us a little bit about your work, that'd be brilliant.
Yes. So in my work, I'm drawing a lot from nature. They are like dreamscapes and from cosmos and conscious and unconscious. And I'm trying to, what I'm interested is to catch, grasp the elusive experiences of light falling on surfaces or certain emotions, visceral emotions, and to capture some kind of poetical moments of body in nature and vapor in the air. And I work this particular work. I work with in different series, and this particular series is I paint with rainwater and with my mixture of my pigments and some inks on paper. The paper is quite translucent. So sometimes work can be seen from both sides, and there is something about this which because it's still very fresh works. They are some of them they are in the same format, and some of them they are in different dimensions, and I'm still yes. I kind of like work keeping open and quite poetically, metaphorically, kind of open to for the viewer. And yeah, thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Hi, yeah.
How are you doing?
Good, thank you, Kirsty.
It's nice to see you.
You too.
Which work would you like us to look at first?
Go for this one, please. Yeah,
Yeah.
Easter.
Yeah. Do you want to just tell us a bit about your practice and a bit about the works that you're showing in this exhibition?
Yeah, so this one is it's a return to what got me stuck as an artist 30 years ago, which is portraiture. And I guess I could say that's what I do, or certainly did, portraiture, because I liked looking at people and seeing, for want of a better word, their soul. So when I returned to doing this with Massimo at Easter, literally this Easter, I knew something about Massimo. I knew that he was finding life something to tense, and so I saw that in his face. But what I did not want to do, and what I don't want to do with portraiture, is just paint tenseness in a face. I want to get to the dignity of a human being, and so it's an equation. You see where they struggle, you see where they're bold, and where they're trying to survive and to rise. And you put it together and you paint their dignity, or in this case, charcoal. And so when I work, at the moment at least, I really like the fact that I've always used. I mean, it's partly because I didn't know what I was doing. I don't know how to paint with oils, but I like the fact that I use humble materials, because it's in line with a philosophy of painting the non 1% elite, the non-glamorous, I don't want to use the word ordinary because that's absolutely not what I'm doing. I mean, Massimo is a very special person, and anybody that you look at properly, you see how special they are. So it's not ordinary, but it's if we're all ordinary, you know, then it's something that's not glamorous, something that's not maximized to be big in the world, the opposite of that. So this is Massimo.
Yeah. And the other is?
The other, right. So again, let's talk about the ordinary. I mean, this is a picture of Jesus Christ, obviously. It's at knee height because I want to create a work which is also performative for the viewer, in that instead of looking up at this grandiose being, we have to kneel down. We have to get down on our knees to look at the work. And this comes out of an experience that I had. I mean, Francis talking about speaking to Beethoven. I had an experience in the church that I attend. I'm not actually by background a so-called Christian. I'm a Hindu Vedantist. But I do attend a Christian church because I believe I'm also a Christian. And I was having a debate with fellow churchgoers about whether I was actually a Christian by definition. And I met a Jesus on a crucifix, and I had an experience of Jesus communicating to me that my spirit was similar to his. And I thought, right, then I'm a Christian. But this is also that in finding that spirit, these open arms, which are so vulnerable and non-grandiose. I mean, we know what happened. We're encountering something which is utterly open to all, so humble and so powerfully unassuming. And anyway, so I painted this particular, I drew this particular Jesus because it spoke to me. It's from a church in Pisa. And when I had this communication with Jesus, and it was that the art that I do is for the people that Jesus said when he was alive, I welcome you all, suffer the little children to come to me. I'm not interested in a big art world career, and I'm not interested in success anymore. You know, I'm done with that. The art and making art is about something deeply meaningful that's at the level of the soul, and at the level of grandeur that Jesus, as an example, was able to create and touch for us in this world, that the 1% cannot achieve.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And then maybe tell us a bit about these works, just while Matthew's flicking through them.
Yeah, my practice is drawing. I've had a long career since the 70s in art, and so I recently did the drawing development year postgrad at the Royal Drawing School, and I'm doing Turk's correspondence course now. So I'm a drawer, but I'm a fine artist now. So here we go. These are all three of these are parts of much bigger drawings, which is what I'm doing at the moment. It's kind of developed without me thinking about it, really. It's just developed into what I do. So I'm kind of like a vessel, and I draw really, really quickly, and I usually have a load of sheets on the wall, and I just empty myself, and something comes through. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's kind of, it isn't really about me. I think it's about everybody. It's about life in general and the world. And it goes through various phases. It doesn't take long to do, but I spend an awful long time looking, and then I curate the sections of the works, turning them around and making something of them, really. And then I end up with one or two, or a diptych, or the whole thing, and everything's always in flux, and it changes all the time. So this one that we can see, the black and cream one, that's inside the Garden of Conundrums. That was once part of I think about 6 pieces, something like that. So that's what I like about the work. Well, I really enjoy doing it. I like the surprise. it's always going to be a surprise to me. And then when it's finished, I enjoy hearing what other people think it is. And the interesting thing is that they always think it's about themselves. So it's never about me. What I think is neither here nor there. And they can see all sorts of things that I'm extremely surprised I didn't know they were there. So that's kind of the joy in it at the moment. And yeah, so the coloured one in the middle.
Do you want to say a little bit about, if you want to, about the relationship between, between design and pattern and the work that you're making?
Yeah, well,
if that's helpful. If that's helpful.
It is, because I do believe that everything you do goes into what you do now, whether you like it or not. So I started out in graphics in the 70s, and I designed Formica, and I worked, I had a ceramic tile design company. And everything really has always been pattern in some form. And I don't see this as pattern, but obviously it is, because it's an overall thing. And as I'm moving on, so now my next goal is to find a space in which I can just really spread out, because I always go beyond the edges. And thinking back, I've never done anything, I've never drawn anything that's been one thing with white around it. It's always runs off the edges, always has done. And I want to fill a massive space and just go on and on until I've finished the space, till the space has ended or the time's ended. And I really want to do that. So that's my next goal.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. I think all the way through Contemporary Art Academy, all through the various different courses that it runs, the artists are practicing, talking about their work all the time. They might not realize that they're doing it all the time. There might be formalized moments where they're talking about the work, or they're writing a statement, presenting ideas, but we just get people speaking about what they're doing as much as possible, just to get that sense of practicing and getting a confidence in speaking publicly and speaking about their ideas and articulating those as clearly and succinctly as possible. So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely in the rubric of Contemporary Art Academy to be doing that. And I think, we talk a lot about this in the sessions I'm running. It's a safe space where people can feel that they're not being judged, and it's a free and open space that people can talk in as well. So, which is super important. It's about development, it's a space for development, really. So that's got to be encouraged and fostered and facilitated.
Well said, Kirsty. And related to that, I'd like to congratulate everyone on fantastic presentations. It's so good to see the show, because I've seen these artists coming through the 3 courses: personal practice, critical context, and professional practice. And it's wonderful to hear them talking about their work in such a concise, confident, eloquent way. And thank you, Kirsty, as well, for really great hosting and really good curating, which we appreciate very much. Also, thank you to everyone for attending. Really good to see so many people here.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, well, everyone, it's another fantastically international event, which is one of the kind of key takeaways from Contemporary Art Academy. I love how we have Sargé in Oregon and everybody from all over the world. So that's definitely, the international flavour is something that we encourage and enjoy very much. If any of you are interested in taking any of our courses, please follow the link to the courses page, have a look. We've got a new CRIT program courses, which is starting this week, which is a new format, which we're very excited about. And we look forward to seeing you at our talks program, on our courses, and at other events in the future. So thank you to all the artists. Thank you so much to Kirsty for putting this on, and have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye now. See you. Bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye now. See you.